The emergency protocol did not teach, it broke. The first emergency lesson was the root line architecture, and the dome delivered it the way a river delivers a drowning. Kofi experienced the Zagalay's nervous system from the inside, not a diagram, not a map, but immersion. 47 nodes, each a grove on the surface, each connected to every other by threads of geological memory. The dome did not show him the surface view. It shoved him into the deep architecture, the sealed layer beneath the nodes where the Zagalay slept, where the root lines converged at pressure points that functioned as the system's vital organs. He tried to hold all 47 connections in his mind simultaneously. He could not. The 16th collapsed the first, the 23rd scattered the rest, and the dome made him start over.
Again.
The dome said, not a suggestion, a command. He started again. This time he tried a different approach, the scavenger's approach. When you map a tunnel system, you do not memorize every branch. You find the load-bearing walls, the points where the structure holds itself up, and you build your understanding outward from those. He found the 7 primary convergence points and anchored the rest to them. It worked. Barely. The network stabilized in his mind like a plate balanced on a stick, wobbling but holding. His nose was bleeding again, a steady drip that he ignored because stopping meant failing and failing meant the system died. The second emergency lesson was the shadow binding. He experienced the Zagalay's proprioception, their sense of where their body's parts existed in space. The shadow binding was not a weapon, not a tool, not the minor power the Ashvale Order had reduced it to. It was awareness itself, the system's ability to feel its own shape, to know where each fragment was in relation to every other. When a shadow binding acted independently, pulling its host toward danger, defying conscious control, it was the system using the binding as a sensor, as an alarm. A hand reaching toward the place where the body hurt. The knowledge doubled him over. He retched onto the warm floor. Nothing came up his stomach, had been empty for so long that the muscles cramped against air. His vision went black for 3 heartbeats. When it returned, everything had an amber halo, and the taste at the back of his throat was bile and blood.
Why does it hurt?
He asked the question through gritted teeth, pressing his forehead against the cool obsidian of the wall. Human neural architecture is not designed to contain Zagalay knowledge at this compression rate. The pain is the candidate's mind attempting to reorganize itself. This process kills 88% of candidates.
You could have mentioned that before I said begin.
The candidate was informed of the survival rate. The experience of the rate was left to the candidate's discretion.
Funny.
Kofi said, blood dripped from his nose onto his knee.
You're funny.
The third emergency lesson was the enskinment bond. The system's immune response. The mechanism by which the Zagalay maintained structural integrity, the skin that separated the system from the environment that held the fragments together. The enskinment was not about succession, not about chiefs and ancestors and hereditary authority. It was about boundary, structural boundary. The distinction between self and not self that kept the whole architecture from dissolving into undifferentiated earth. The knowledge hit him like a wall, and this time he tried to lean into it, tried to let it reshape him instead of resisting. But the dome threw him a complication, a diagnostic exercise. The corrupted enskinment appeared in his awareness, and the dome demanded he identify the mechanism of corruption. He got it wrong.
It's a parasite.
He said.
Something external attached to the enskinment pattern.
Incorrect. The corruption is endogenous. The pattern was rewritten from within by someone with protocol-level understanding. Attempt again. He thought the scavenger's eye. In the depths, when you found a broken mechanism, the first question was always, did it break or was it taken apart? Broken things have random damage. Disassembled things have precise damage. The corruption's edges were precise.
It's autoimmune.
He said.
Someone turned the enskinment against itself. The boundary mechanism is attacking the system it's supposed to protect, like like convincing a body's skin that its own organs are foreign.
Correct. The corrupted actor possesses protocol-level knowledge. He studied the inscriptions without submitting to the training. He stole understanding the way the factions stole power partially, incompletely, catastrophically.
Tohage.
Kofi said, the name arrived in his understanding from the dome systems. A man with half an obsidian face, weaving himself into the system's boundary mechanism.
He's going to use the Damba alignment to become the system's new skin.
Kofi collapsed on the fourth lesson. The Fugu encoding the system's memory, its ability to store and transmit information across distance and time hit him with a volume of data that exceeded anything his mind could process. He was not a Tindana, not a weaver, not a shadow binder. He was a scavenger with no magical training, no foundational skills, no framework to hang the knowledge on. The emergency protocol was pouring an ocean into a cup, and the cup was cracking. His hands lost the panel. He felt himself falling inward, into the gaps between the knowledge the protocol had crammed into his mind. The scavenger, Kofi the failed candidate, Kofi the marginal, was being compressed into a smaller and smaller space. His memories began to fragment. His mother's face blurred. The sound of rain on the tunnel ceiling dissolved into static. His own name became a shape he could see but not read, like script in an unfamiliar language. Panic hit, real animal panic, the kind that lives below thought. He was losing himself, not dying something worse, being erased from the inside while his body stayed warm on the dome floor. He clawed at his own memories, trying to hold them, but they slipped through his fingers like water through a cracked bowl. The taste of the depths mushrooms gone. The smell of the collapsed eastern tunnels fading. The sound of his own laughter, the one honest sound he'd made in 14 months when the dome called him marginal dissolving. His bad knee screamed. The pain was the last real thing, the last sensation that belonged entirely to him and not to the Zagele's drowning ocean of knowledge. He grabbed it, not metaphorically. He wrapped both hands around his ruined knee and held on to the pain the way a drowning man holds on to a rock. Candidate vital signs critical. Candidate cognitive integrity, 14%. Emergency intervention authorized. External candidate override detected. A new voice entered the dome. Not through the inscriptions, through the earth itself, through the root lines, vibrating up through the warm floor and into Kofi's palms where they gripped his knee. Human, female, old, strained, as though each word was being pulled from a great distance through stone that did not want to let it pass.
Hold on, boys.
Pogna Zara's voice carried across the territories through the same infrastructure the Zagale had built and the factions had fragmented. She was not in the dome. She was in Ironhaven, 3 levels below the chief's audience hall, and reaching him was costing her. Kofi could hear it, the labor in her breathing, the wet edge of a cough she was suppressing. Something tore in her voice between the first word and the second, some thread of vitality spent to bridge the distance.
I know what the protocol is doing to you.
She said, the words arrived with gaps between them, like footsteps on uncertain ground.
It did the same to me. The 4th lesson is the worst. The encoding system is too vast for a human mind to process in one session.
Kofi wanted to respond. He could not. He was somewhere between consciousness and the dissolving place beneath it, clutching his bad knee in the amber dark, feeling his identity come apart like wet paper.
Listen.
Zara's voice was weaker now. Each word cost her something visible or would have been visible if Kofi could see Ironhaven. In the enskinment chamber, 3 levels down, the Pugna pressed her palms against the stone floor and felt the years pulling at her. A streak of white bloomed in her hair above the left temple. The skin around her eyes thinned. The earth bond did not give freely. It took payment in the currency of the body that held it.
The protocol is designed to push you past breaking.
Her breathing was ragged.
That is the point. The 12% survival rate is not random. It is the percentage of candidates whose minds break and reform instead of just breaking. The knowledge does not fit in your original mind. It was never going to fit.
Break and reform, not just break.
Let go.
Zara said.
Stop trying to hold your original self together. The scavenger, the failed candidate, the marginal boy from the depths let him go.
Kofi's grip tightened on his knee. The pain flared white-hot, and he held on harder. Let go of what? Of the only self he had. The 14 months of rat meat and cave mushrooms and sleeping in rubble. Those months were his. They were the proof that he existed, that he had survived, that the factions had thrown him away and he had refused to stop being.
No.
He said it aloud, or thought he did. In the dissolving dark, the distinction was academic.
No, I don't let go. I don't let go of the scavenger.
Zara was silent. The connection between them hummed with the root line's deep vibration. In Ironhaven, she closed her eyes. Blood ran from her nose, her body paying the toll of maintaining the bridge. She was 71 years old and spending years she did not have on a boy she had never met.
Then you'll die,
She said simply, without judgment.
Maybe.
Kofi's voice was a wreck, broken glass and blood.
But the scavenger is the only useful thing about me. The scavenger sees patterns. The scavenger finds value in garbage. The scavenger survives. If the protocol rebuilds me without that, what's the point? You'll get another Zara. Someone who finishes the training and locks the door because they're too comfortable to do the hard thing.
The silence stretched. The amber dark pressed in. Kofi's memories continued to fragment around the edges, blurring, dissolving, and the pain in his knee was a red spike driven into the center of a collapsing world. Then Zara laughed. A short, rough sound carried across hundreds of kilometers of root line and stone, and it cost her another year.
You arrogant boys.
As she said,
You beautiful, arrogant boy.
a pause. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper, the last breath of a connection that was burning her alive to maintain.
Then don't let go. Make the protocol take you as you are. It's never been done. But then I chose the coward's path, so what do I know about what's possible?
The connection severed. Not gently it snapped, and in Ironhaven, Pogna Zara collapsed against the enskinment chamber floor, gasping, her hair streaked white at both temples now, her hands shaking, her body 5 years older than it had been 10 minutes ago. Kofi was alone in the dark. The knowledge was still pressing in, the ocean was still pouring, his cup was still cracking, but the scavenger, the rat catcher, the mushroom eater, the marginal boy with the bad knee was still there. Still holding, still refusing to be erased. He stopped fighting the knowledge. He stopped trying to contain it in his original mind. Instead, he did what a scavenger does with a haul too large to carry. He sorted it. What's useful now? What's useful later? What's dead weight? The root line architecture load-bearing, keep it close. The shadow binding theory useful, file it. The enskinment mechanics critical, prioritize. The fugu encoding this was the one killing him. Too much data, too many frequencies, too many patterns. He could not hold all of it, so he did not try. He held the structure instead. The relationships. The way the encoding connected to the root lines, connected to the shadow bindings, connected to the enskinment. Not the content, but the architecture. Not every book in the library, but the floor plan that told you where to find them. The breaking happened anyway. It was not a choice. His mind cracked along fault lines that had been forming since the first lesson, and the knowledge flooded in through the cracks. But it flooded into a mind that had already organized the space. The scavenger had sorted the rubble before the ceiling fell, and when the collapse came, the useful pieces were already in reach. He screamed. He was fairly certain of that. The breaking was not painless, it was the most pain he had ever experienced. A white-hot erasure and reconstruction that happened simultaneously, like being unmade and remade in the same breath. His knee buckled and he hit the dome floor with his full weight on the bad joint, and the physical pain and the mental pain merged into a single unbearable frequency that rang through every nerve he possessed. And then it was done. The dome's amber light returned. Kofi was lying on the warm floor, curled on his side, his hands still wrapped around his knee. His breathing was ragged. His face was wet blood from his nose, tears he did not remember crying. His body shook with a fine, continuous tremor. He opened his eyes. His vision was different, Not blurred, not doubled, but layered. He could see the dome's physical structure, and beneath it, the network connections linking this chamber to every node in the Zagale system. Root lines stretching outward, shadow threads, encoding frequencies, enskinment bonds, not abstract concepts, but visible, tangible, navigable architecture. He could see the corruption. A black thread running through the golden network, originating from the enskinment chamber in Ironhaven. Tohage, half an obsidian face, weaving himself into the system's boundary mechanism, preparing to receive the Damba alignment's renewal and become the system's new skin. And he could feel the signal. The Zagale frequency, a single word broadcast through the root line columns from beneath the looms of Tamali. Zagale, not a notification. A summons, something deep calling to something deep, the way the earth calls to a seed, not a request, but an inevitability, a gravitational truth that did not require agreement to take effect. The rejected one, the listener, the last pattern, the candidate. Kofi uncurled, sat up. The movement sent fresh agony through his knee, worse than before, much worse, a grinding wrongness that told him something had shifted during the breaking, something mechanical and permanent. He looked at his hands. Same scarred knuckles, same scavenging calluses. He caught his reflection in the obsidian wall. His face was his own. Same sharp angles, same hollow cheeks. But a streak of white cut through his hair above the right temple, a lightning bolt of premature age, the protocol's receipt for what it had taken. It had not been there before the breaking. It would be there for the rest of his life. He could read the inscriptions now. Every angular character on every surface, fluent and effortless, the way he read Dagbani. The language was part of him now, woven into the architecture the protocol had built around the scavenger it could not erase.
Thank you,
He said, to the dome. To Zara, carried through the root lines by the earth bond that had nearly killed her to reach him. In Ironhaven, in the enskinment chamber, Pogna Zara felt the words arrive through the stone floor. A vibration, 2 words. She was lying on her back, staring at the ceiling, her body wrecked, her hair white at the temples. She had spent 5 years of her life to save a boy she had never met. She smiled, it hurt her face.
He kept the scavenger.
She whispered to the empty chamber.
The stubborn fool kept the scavenger.
43 years of carrying a secret alone. Now the second candidate had survived the breaking, and he had done it wrong by every measure the protocol had ever used. He had done it wrong. He had refused to let go. He had forced the protocol to rebuild around his broken, marginal, scavenging self instead of replacing it. She hoped it would be enough. 4 days was not enough time, but time had never been on the system's side. Back in the dome, Kofi stood. His knee nearly buckled. He caught himself on the pillar, grinding his teeth against the pain. The joint was damaged, not the old bruise, not the familiar ache. Something new, something the breaking had done when his full weight came down wrong. He would limp worse now. The protocol did not care about bodies. It cared about minds. The emergency protocol continues. Candidate status, reformed method, non-standard. The candidate retained original cognitive architecture and forced integration rather than replacement. A pause. When the dome resumed, the quality of the comprehension carried something Kofi had not felt from it before. Not amusement, not approval, something closer to curiosity. This method has not been previously recorded. Survival probability cannot be revised using standard models. Estimated range, 40 to 70%. The variance reflects the protocol's uncertainty regarding the candidate's approach.
40 to 70.
Kofi said. He limped to the panel, lowered himself carefully, and pressed his palm to the glass.
Better than 12.
The 5th lesson began. Kofi held on Scavenger's grip, Scavenger's eyes, Scavenger's stubborn refusal to be anyone other than who the depths had made him, and let the knowledge come.